Crank it up, let it roll. Stars and stripes in my soul. Steel toes on, boots in the gravel. Heartland truth on every channel. Open Bible, flag on the wall. We say what we believe or we don't talk it all. This is red, white and raised hell. Cowboy hat, church bell. Can't scare us into silence. We were born to rebel from the back road to the beltway. We won't fade, we won't fail. Proud, loud, standing tall. Red, white and raised hell. We back the badge, we guard the border. We love our guns and law and order. They try to shame every word we say, but we don't bow down, we just press play. This is red, white and raised hell. Cowboy hat, church bell. Can't scare us into silence. We were born to rebel from the back road to the bell. Hey, we won't fade, we won't fail. Proud, loud, standing tall. Red, white and raised hell. You can cancel the show, but not the crowd. We're still here, still talking loud. Gander the free on every spell. Hit that mic, host, let the truth ring out. This is red, white, and raised hell. Cowboy hat, church bell. Can't scare us into silence. We were born to rail from the back road to the beltway. We won't fade, we won't fail. Proud, loud, standing tall. Red, white, and raised hell.
Oh, yes, indeed. Good morning. Why are we on a split screen? There we go. That's the right screen. Look at Dylan jumping up at the moment needed. Hey, everybody. Good morning. Thanks for being with us. Busy Thursday morning on Strictly Speaking Unlimited. Thank you. First things first. Appreciate you being here. Second things second. Who'd you bring with you today? Don't forget, you got to spread the word. Tell people about the conservative content you are finding right here each and every day on the live stream. And anybody watching later on the replay, make sure you tell everybody about that too. Like, subscribe, share, follow. All of the above matters. And it's a Thursday, 9th morning, 4th month, year of our Lord 2026. And I think I forgot yesterday's calendar flip because we dove right into the content. I wanted to make room for guests. But today I'm going to catch up here. So yesterday, the 8th, the newbies, I do this every day, or I try to anyway. It's my perpetual calendar. It's a flip calendar. It's good for 365 days with an inspirational quote every day. And I've had this calendar for 35 years, and I put it on my desk and I use it. Yesterday was good is not good, where better is expected. Thomas Fuller said that. I don't know who Thomas Fuller is. Like I said, some of these people are philosophers. Some of them are entrepreneurs. Some of them are coaches. Some of them are poets. You never know. Today, though, is the 9th morning of the 4th month, as I mentioned. And April 9th says, plan your work for today and every day. Then work your plan. Norman Vincent Peale. Guess what? It's exactly what I'm about to do. Spent last night planning this work. Spent much of this morning planning this work. Now let us work this plan. Welcome, chatters. Welcome to Dylan. Like I said, remember, Dylan, I think it is on his 4th day now of working. No, 3rd day, 4th day, working for us, producing the show, trying to make things a little bit smoother and a little bit more seamless. Make sure that the host doesn't leave his mic muted for 15 minutes like he did during a show last week, unrealizing it. So Dylan is going to be in the kind of holding court. And hopefully letting me know when trolls get inside the chat, because we do want to bounce them. And, here's what I do. And I want you guys to let me know, too. Insiders, you guys are so good at informing me. By the way, ultimate and unfiltered insiders in the locals community, we confirmed a day and time next week and location. It's just for your eyes and mine. That's it. That's one of the perks of being an insider. We get to do things together. And we've got a social event planned for next week. So date and time and location are on locals right now in the Unfiltered Insiders post. Just FYI to y'all. But I forgot where I was going with that, other than just to say good morning to everybody. And to let you know that we have a lot of work to do today. A lot of topics, a lot of video. We got to break things down. Yesterday, we talked at length about Iran. I'm going to talk at length about Iran again today, but only in the first part of this show, because I've got a lot of other really, really important things that I want to share, including a governor who looks like a guy who is ready to make another run for the White House. And you know what? I would be absolutely thrilled if he did. And no spoiler alert here. Ron DeSantis is just doing awesome things again. He was doing awesome things for 4 years before 2024. And he was a great candidate for president. And I liked so much about him. Obviously, it wasn't to be, because President Trump is a force of nature and is doing extraordinary things in his own right. But meanwhile, all DeSantis has done in his last term as governor is keep his nose to the grindstone and turned out tremendous policy, which I'm going to share with you in a minute. I mean, this is one of those, we have such a wealth of talent on the conservative side of things. I've got stories on J.D. Vance I'm going to be talking about here in a moment too, and he is, I think, doing an amazing job. And I've been praising Marco Rubio since he took office as Secretary of State. Marco Rubio has just been a phenomenal statesman, policy director. I mean, just everything you could possibly ask for in a leader. President Trump chose his people well in that regard. Maybe not as well with Pam Bondi, maybe not as well with Kristi Noem, but certainly some tremendous selections here. And all of them are going to be in the running in 2028, or should be. And it's fantastic. So the last couple of days, I've had to dive right into content and guests. I have neglected to greet my chatters. So let us do that right now and say good morning to the first in the house today. Fresh off of the Cuyahoga County Republican Party Lincoln Day dinner. Casey John, up and early. Good morning, everyone. Great visit with Vivek last night, who, of course, was the speaker at the RPCC. I did not get a chance to attend that last night. Pressing matters kept me away, but I did get a lot of great photographs that I saw on Facebook from friends and supporters, and people are going to be in this room today who were there listening to our future governor and, talking about the mission at hand. B. Morgan, good morning. All Patriots. Sally, good morning. Patriots, as we await taking control of the Strait of Hormuz. Singular strait, not straits, but singular strait. And that one strait is the sticking point, literally and figuratively. Literally it is, because it's that choked off kind of coffin corner that Iran controls, even though it's an international waterway. But that, that is the cornerstone of all of this. That's what led to President Trump's tweets and promises of destruction and so forth. And the ceasefire was supposed to be okay. It's going to be open for 2 weeks, and now they've already shut it down again. They're demanding ransoms, $2 million per ship to pass through. It's a big mess. So yeah, we're going to hit that a little bit in a minute. DB Jones is up early and says, good Friday Eve. I like the looks of that. Good morning to Rosebud. Good morning to Roz. Hockey player Mike, I see you up there. CAD, Marty BG, Marty 4BG. Is that for Bowling Green, I wonder? Lisa, good morning to you. Good morning to Meg Marie. Good morning to Charlie. Who else we got up in the house? SRL is up early. Yo Jimbo cranking it up and letting it roll. Still earworming me all damn day. I don't know if I'm going to be able to keep playing that as the open to the show because I hear it every morning and it stays with me all day. I'm mowing the lawn yesterday. I got earbuds in. I've got a playlist playing from my iPhone while I'm mowing the lawn. And it's dominated and taken over by my head, which is hearing, crank it up, let it roll. I just can't get it out of my head. And I guess that's a good thing, right? That's how advertising works. Good morning. Enjoyed today's great weather, Patriots. I'm tired of the weather around here. I'm tired of that. Yesterday, I went out to my truck after the show, and I had freaking frost all over my windshield. I had to start the car and let the frost melt. And then as I was on my way home late in the afternoon, around 5:30, it was 65 and my windows were down. It's like, what? This is stupid. It's driving me nuts. I'm going to have to escape. I need a break. Meg Marie saw a funny and effective ad for Robert Sprague this morning. I hope Marcel has plans to release commercials as well. Yeah. Marcel has just got, I don't know if he's got the better commercials or not, but I know he's got the better ideas, and I know he's the better candidate, and I know he's the right guy for Secretary of State. And I think what Robert Sprague, the kind of campaign he's running, is cowardly. Sorry, and I know that might cost me interviews with him if he wins. But Robert Sprague is refusing to debate Marcel. Marcel has all of the ideas on the Secretary of State's race, on election security, and so much more. And Robert Sprague won't debate him. And Robert Sprague is kind of plagiarizing those ideas on his own talking points. So it'll be interesting to see. If Robert Sprague wins the primary, I'll support him. Obviously, I'll support whoever our guy is. But it's frustrating. I think Marcel is a phenomenal candidate. Good morning, Robin. Right back at you. And Fred Frog, I see you there. I'm sure Marcel will, but remember, he doesn't have the bankroll Sprague has. Yeah, because Sprague has unlimited bank because he got the endorsement of the ORP, the Ohio Republican Party, which should not have endorsed in that primary race, did, and that opens up all kinds of vaults to the endorsed candidate, and it is an unfair fight, if you will. That's a frustrating thing. Good morning to Sarah and Sherbink and Liberty Bell and B Butts. And we're going to dive in. We got to get into the work here. Oh, there's Charlie, who sent me a great picture of Vivek Ramaswamy last night with some greasy mechanic standing next to him. The mechanic. Time to cut the American Canal through the UAE and Oman and bypass the strait altogether. The American Canal. I like the idea. I like the sound of that. Hey, Bob, tell Marcel to get yard signs out and early. Yeah. We're going to have Marcel on next week, by the way. We need Bernie Moreno to endorse Marcel, says politically incorrect mechanic. Yeah, I think that would be a fantastic thing. I have not talked to Bernie about other races So other than Husted, running to keep his Senate seat away from Sherrod Brown. But all right, folks, good stuff. Thank you, everybody. I want to dive into the news now because we have a lot to get into. So Dylan's going to run some of this video for us here. What I've got in front of me right now is some really, really important updates on what's going on in Iran. I'm going to start there, but like I said, I'm not going to finish there. I've got Iran stories. I've got Ron DeSantis and what's happening in Florida stories. I've got illegal immigration stories that we absolutely must hit today. We've got paid protesters and Islamists marching in New York City in favor of the Islamic regime of Iran. It's unbelievable. Unbelievable. The left continues to back the wrong side. We're at war with Iran, and the left is paying protesters to march through American streets in support of the Iranian Islamic machine. Holy hell. I mean, what are we into? And by the way, Rand Paul continues his love-hate relationship with conservatives. How many times have I come to you on this program and on the previous radio program and said, I stand with Rand? And how many times have I come onto this program and said, Rand Paul is a nut? Because he is just love-hate, man. And when he's right, he's very right on things like COVID and Wuhan and the shots and everything else. And when he's wrong, I just think he's off the rails. He is very, very much an antagonist to President Trump, which is a problem. But today I've got one for you in a few minutes. And it may be into the second hour. It depends on how fast I go through these things. But he is co-sponsored. Charlie, the politically incorrect mechanic, my guy. You're going to love this. Did you hear about this? Let me pop back into the chat again super quick before I bring that up. Charlie, I'm talking specifically to you, PIM, Mr. Politically Incorrect Mechanic. Did you hear about Rand Paul's most recent proposal? Just a yes or no on the chat. That's you, Mr. Kalani, by the way, who is about to become a partner of this program. Charlie is a phenomenal mechanic, the politically incorrect mechanic. He's a phenomenal one, and he will take care of your car like no other. And next week he starts advertising on, strictly speaking, Unfiltered. So Charlie, good for you, brother, and keep up the great work. But I'm serious about this. You did not hear this. Good. That means I'm breaking this news to you. Shoot, should I just start with it? Because I got to start with Iran, right? I kind of have to do that. But let me just give you this. Rand Paul, again, the guy that I said love-hate relationship, but you know what? You can throw up at least the story there, Dylan. Go ahead and throw that one up. It's about, I want to say 10 down. Rand Paul co-sponsoring something. Let's let everybody see it up on the screen if you can find that in short order here. Otherwise, I'm just going to announce it. But if you can put it up. All right, Dylan, you got me? All right, there he goes. Dylan is loading something. No, not JD. I want the Rand Paul story. About 10 down on our list. That's all right. I'm just gonna say it. So Rand Paul is introducing and co-sponsoring a bill that would provide for nationwide permitless carry. Like we have here in the state of Ohio, we have constitutional carry, but I can't carry my weapon across state lines because I don't know what I'm crossing into. Okay. That's what Rand Paul and Mike Lee are doing right now. Senator Mike Lee introduced the National Constitutional Carry Act on March 5th to let eligible Americans carry concealed firearms in public without permits, overriding restrictive state laws in places like California and New York. Kentucky Republican Rand Paul joined as a co-sponsor, joined by Wyoming's John Barrasso, amid debates sparked by Maryland's push to ban certain Glock modifications. The bill is now in the Senate Judiciary Committee with a House companion from Robert Massey, another Kentuckian. Of course, he's another guy with a love-hate relationship with conservatives, aiming to enforce Second Amendment protections, and has drawn praise from gun rights groups like Gun Owners of America, although critics still call it redundant, and it faces steep odds in Congress. The reason this is news now is because of the Rand Paul tweet underneath that main story there. Can you click that Rand Paul tweet there, Dylan? I'll pop that up on the screen. See, Dylan, you're still in dark mode. We got to get you off of dark mode. It's very, very hard to read that. If you can pop that up on your side in the bright mode, it'll be a lot easier to read small font, I think, for folks. But anyway, what the Rand Paul tweet says, if you can't read it, is quote, and this is from yesterday, 4:18 p.m. I believe that your constitutional rights should not stop at state lines. That's why I'm co-sponsoring Based Mike Lee's National Constitutional Carry Act, which will allow law-abiding citizens to carry concealed nationwide. That's pretty solid. And I figured Charlie's like the biggest Second Amendment guy that I think I know, outside of maybe Chris Dorr of Ohio Gun Owners, who is a phenomenal patriot in support of the Second Amendment. But so Charlie is the first guy I thought of when I saw this. So I wanted to make sure that he knew, and hopefully we'll get some comments on the chat about that from folks as well today. All right, so there, I kind of went out of order, but I do want to dive back into Iran now because this is, of course, the top story in the world and the top story that we're going to have. And yesterday, I did an entire show basically on, what this ceasefire looks like and what's wrong with this ceasefire, and that it's not really a ceasefire because of A, B, C, D, and E. And this is one of the problems with negotiating these things in public. That was my take yesterday. Got a lot of interesting feedback from some folks on email about that. And you can email me, bob@strictlyspeaking.org, if you want to do that. But best way to comment is in the comments. Get into the comments. If you're on the live stream, do it in the chat. If you're not, please do it in the comment section if you're watching this later on. But let's go to the top video on the list today, if we could, Dylan. I want to hear from Vice President J.D. Vance. This is a big deal because J.D. Vance today is heading into he's going to be guiding the talks, the negotiations with Iranian officials. They're going to be in Islamabad. Dylan, let me know when you got that ready, buddy. All right, we got to get this up and on the there we go. So Vice President Vance yesterday was talking about this, as you can see, at an event, and Vice President Vance had some strong statements about where we are in the ceasefire, trying to correct some early reports that are inaccurate about what the ceasefire looks like, and talking about the upcoming negotiations to end the war, not just with both sides agree to end it, but with an Iran full concession. They have to concede to no more enrichment of uranium. They have to surrender the uranium they have that is buried. That they cannot stop or control the Strait of Hormuz, which is international waters, and so forth. There's a lot that is to come in this negotiation in order for the hostilities to end. But what J.D. Vance said yesterday, giving us an update, I think is really, really important, especially after a lot of misinformation that was provided about what this ceasefire deal looks like. So let's check this out. Fire away.
I have the opportunity now to ask you about Iran. There are latest developments, I think very positive developments during the night that we received, that there is a ceasefire. What can we know more about the latest developments in the Middle East?
Yes, that's why I was a little late this morning. I was very late last night and talking about that. Look, I do think there are good developments here. And let me just say a few things. First of all, what the president set out to do was decimate the Iranian military, decimate their ability to wage conventional war. And that military objective, as the president said yesterday, as I said yesterday, has been achieved. And because of that, what the president did is he basically issued an ultimatum to the Iranians. He said, open up the straits, stop trying to hold the world's economy hostage, and we'll engage in a ceasefire. And that's exactly the agreement that we came to last night. The Iranians have agreed to open up the straits. The United States has agreed to stop attacking. And that, not just the United States, but also our allies, have agreed to stop attacking. And that is the basis of this fragile truce that we have, which is now 8 to 12 hours old. Now, here's what I'll say about this. I've learned a lot about the Iranian system and a lot about the way the Iranians negotiate. As the president told me last night, the Iranians are better negotiators than they are fighters. I'm sure they don't like to hear that, but it's true. But here's a couple things. So one, just in the response that we've seen from various segments of Iran, you have on the one hand, people within Iran who have responded very favorably. The foreign minister who said, look, we agreed to the United States' terms. We'll do a ceasefire, we'll do a negotiation, we'll open the Straits of Hormuz, and then we'll see if we can come to more agreement down the road. So some of the people have responded favorably and have said the right things. And then you have some people on social media within their system who are basically lying about what we've accomplished militarily. They're lying about the nature of the agreement. They're lying about the nature of the ceasefire. And so you have just, even within their system, and this is why I say this is a fragile truce, you have people who clearly want to come to the negotiating table and work with us to find a good deal. And then you have people who are lying about even the fragile truce that we've already struck. And that's just an interesting thing about their system. And
okay, so cue up the next JD Vance one, if you would, because this one took place on the tarmac outside of Air Force. What does he fly on? 2, I guess. At any rate, cue up that one, because what JD Vance just said there is important. He said Iran negotiates better than they fight, and they fight poorly, which is why we have, just decimated them and killed. Pete Hegseth ran down a list yesterday of all of the top Iranian officials who have been killed. They can't even protect their very, most, sacred and highest ranking leaders, right? So no, they're not good at the fighting thing, but they're good at the negotiating thing, which I want to respond to what Vice President Vance just said. They're good at the negotiating thing only because of the fact that they lie. They tell you what you want to hear at a negotiation, and then 10 minutes later, they're firing rockets into Israel and firing rockets into Oman and firing rockets into UAE and firing rockets into the other Arab states that are actually supportive of the United States in ridding the world and the region of the Iranian regime, the Islamic regime. So that's what they do. And, they say, okay, the strait is going to be open for 2 weeks. But by the way, every ship that tries to come through here, we're not letting through until they give us $2 million. Wait, what? That was not a part of the deal, obviously. So they negotiate well because they cheat and they lie. That's why they negotiate well. But what Vice President Vance talked about at the tarmac here is even more important, because it's not just the cheating and the lying and the duplicity and the deception of the Iranians. It is the lying and the duplicity and the deception of the media and irresponsible media. Iran submitted what Vice President Vance called a 10-point proposal that looked like it was written by ChatGPT. That's probably the one that we were reading yesterday, that the Wall Street Journal reported as the 10-point proposal. And I went through all 10 of them because Fox News reported them as well, citing and quoting the journal. Obviously, we can't know what media sources are providing the right list and what are not. And so we went with that one and we broke it down point by point by point, and why every single one of those is a non-starter. That was a huge part of yesterday's show. Well, Vice President Vance knows that the American people were getting that message and responding to it in the way that I did, in the way that we did, in the way that people all over the country did, and he's pissed about it. And he said it is so irresponsible for the media to fly these things around without having vetted them and making sure to double and triple and quadruple source them for accuracy. And that's what he wanted people to know on the tarmac. Go ahead and play it.
So let me just say, given that you guys are going to ask about Iran, let me just say a few things, actually. So number one, I think it's very important for the American media to be honest with the American people on this particular issue, because it affects not just the normal issues of public policy. It actually affects peace and war. And here's what I mean. So in the past couple of days, I've seen a lot of reporting from the American media about the 10-point proposal that the Iranians have made. Now, as I know, because I've been involved in this, there are 3 different 10-point proposals, at least, that I've seen floating around. The first 10-point proposal was something that was submitted, and we think, frankly, was probably written by ChatGPT, that was submitted to Steve Witkoff and Jared Kushner. That immediately went in the garbage and was rejected. There was a second 10-point proposal that was much more reasonable, that was based on some back and forth between us, between the Pakistanis and Iranians. That is the 10-point proposal that the president was referencing in his truth yesterday. And then, frankly, I've seen a third 10-point proposal that's even more maximalist than the first 10-point proposal that's been floating around various social media channels. Now, here's what's interesting about all this, is that I've seen various organs, the New York Times, CNN, others, pick up and run the original 10-point proposal based on little more than a random Yahoo in Iran submitting it to public access television in the country of Iran, and then them saying that somehow represents the negotiating position of the government.
Okay. So Vice President Vance is tired of misinformation being floated around there as being accurate information. And again, he's not wrong. These giant media sources with incredible resources have to be more responsible with what is being reported out there. They have to vet and double and triple and quadruple check their sources, because others, American citizens like me, people with platforms and others who just telling, two friends who told two friends who told two friends this stuff, we don't, what are we to know? This is why the fourth estate matters so much. The media used to be moderately reliable, at least in gathering facts. They still might have been leftward tilted, which I think they've always been. And going back to Watergate and beyond, there's always been a leftist tilt to the mainstream, what we call the legacy media, but never as outright and openly hostile toward the truth and toward conservatives and toward, the right as they are now. And in the case of Donald Trump and the Trump administration, never as openly hostile toward anything as they are to them. We trust them. We have to be able to trust them. We don't. I don't trust. We should be able to trust them to ferret through all of the information and tell us, all right, here's what's really in the 10-point proposal. Don't just grab something that somebody floated out there and said, oh, this must be it. Because that's what we rely on. We rely on the actual resources of multi-million-dollar media companies to get the truth and report it. Now, if they want to slant and tilt it with their opinion and editorials, fine. But at least give it the rest of it, give it to us so that the rest of us can actually report on it and speak to it and opine upon it with accuracy. That's really, really important. All right. So thank you to Vice President Vance for that. Now, next on the Iran hit parade today. This is so incredibly important. The reason for, the stated reason for, going into Iran with this campaign now, as we've been talking about for all week, really, was laid out by Secretary of State Rubio, who talked about how close Iran was to enriching uranium to weapons grade to be able to then put nuclear-tipped weapons on these massive ranged ballistic missiles that they've been building for a very long time. It was the buildup of the missiles that largely kind of insulated and protected them in their program, which is why President Trump, when getting this intel, and Marco explained it so very well, had to make this move in the middle of at the beginning stages of, I guess, of a midterm election year in which we don't need to be at war and we don't need to be having, prices go up and so forth, because it's not beneficial to him or his party, that's like, again, President Trump was doing something, I don't want to rehash this, but doing something that was literally in the interest of yours and my national security. So Marco Rubio explained the reasons to go, and it was all about nuclear, and rightfully so. There was a time when Democrats felt the exact same way. So what I want to play now, and you can cue this up, Dylan. Chuck Schumer back in 2015, right before President Trump won, obviously, the presidency in 2016. This was 2015. Chuck Schumer, who is, of course, the Senate Minority Leader. Chuck Schumer arguing against the Iran nuclear deal that was being negotiated by the Obama administration, arguing against it on the basis of what? You can't trust the Iranians. Why isn't he saying this today? President Trump had to do this because we can't trust the Iranians when it comes to their nuclear technology and their nuclear weapon program. Watch Chuck Schumer and listen closely. This is, it's 11 years ago, so it wasn't yesterday, but it wasn't 50 years ago either. This is modern. This is kind of current. 2 presidents ago, Obama was negotiating this nuclear deal that Chuck Schumer said, yeah, we can't trust this. We can't trust the Iranians. And ever since then, and obviously since 1979, we talk about, nearly 5 decades, the Iranians have been, American presidents have been promising to rein in the Iranians because they're A, the world's leading sponsor of terror, and B, they are trying to wipe Israel off the map and trying to destroy America. Hence their mottos, death to Israel, death to America. And if they get nuclear capabilities, those things will take place. So we've been for decades trying to get this done. And as recently as 11 years ago, Chuck Schumer said, we cannot allow a nuclear Iran, and we cannot trust that they are not becoming a nuclear power. Watch this.
I examined this deal in 3 parts. Nuclear restrictions on Iran in the first 10 years, nuclear restrictions on Iran after 10 years, and non-nuclear components and consequences of the deal. And in each case, I didn't ask what is the ideal agreement. We're not in that world. I asked, are we better off with the agreement that we have before us or without? In the first 10 years of the deal, there are serious weaknesses in the agreement. First, inspections are not anywhere, anytime. The potential delay of as many as 24 days before we can inspect undeclared suspicious sites is troubling. It is true that declared sites will be monitored. That is one of the positives of this deal. But if Iran is going to cheat, it will not be at a declared site with the eyes of the world watching. It will be at a non-designated site. And if Iran is trying to cheat, it will certainly delay the inspection process as long as possible. Even more troubling is the fact that the U.S. cannot demand inspections unilaterally. We require a majority of the 8-member Joint Commission. Assuming that China, Russia, Iran will not cooperate, inspections would require the votes of all 3 European members of the P5+1, as well as the EU representative. It is a reasonable fear. Once the Europeans become entangled in lucrative economic relations with Iran, they may not want to rock the boat by voting to allow inspections. We must evaluate how this deal would restrict Iran's nuclear development after 10 years. In my view, if Iran's true intent is to get a nuclear weapon, under this agreement, it simply must exercise patience. After 10 years, it can be very close to achieving that goal.
Stop.
Iran would be strong.
Okay, thank you, Dylan. Did you follow that? This was 11 years ago. Chuck Schumer predicting that in 10 years, which would have been last year, Iran would be able to do that. Iran would be able to, all they had to do is have patience. They would be able to build that weapon and to be able to threaten to use it. He said that 11 years ago, and now here we are, right after that 10-year period that Chuck Schumer kind of outlined, and Iran was getting closer and closer and closer. He did not like the nuclear deal. He did not trust Iran to agree to and to follow through on the inspections to make sure that the Iranians, were not allowed to and were not actively pursuing weapons-grade enrichment of uranium to build their own nuclear bomb. Here we are 10 years later, and Chuck Schumer and the Democrats are just destroying Trump for going out there to stop what he said 10 years ago would happen 10 years later. He said it then that it would happen now. He was right because nobody dealt with this, including Trump in the first term. Let's be fair. No president has done this until they came closer and closer and closer to this ability, which they are now, as Marco Rubio laid out in that the remarks from the Secretary of State's office. But Chuck Schumer said in 10 years, they're going to be able to do this. Well, here we are 10 years later, now 11, and President Trump is saying, wow, that Schumer guy in 2015 was right. Look where they are. We got to stop it now. And they're just lambasting him for starting this quote unquote war of choice. And do these people realize that things that they say previously can indeed come back and be brought up as part of the conversation again, which is a fancy way of saying the internet is forever? Did they think we'd forget about that? Play the rest of that.
Stronger financially, better able to advance a robust nuclear program. And unlike its current unsanctioned pursuit of a nuclear weapon, Iran's nuclear program would be codified in an agreement signed by the United States and other nations. Finally, we must consider the non-nuclear elements of the agreement. This aspect of the deal gives me the most pause. For years, Iran has used military force and terrorism to expand its influence in the Middle East, actively supporting military or terrorist actions in Israel, Syria, Lebanon, Yemen, Iraq, and Gaza. Under this agreement, Iran would receive at least $50 billion in the future and would undoubtedly use some of that money to create even more trouble in the Middle East and perhaps beyond. The hardliners could use these funds to pursue an ICBM as soon as sanctions are lifted, and then augment their ICBM capabilities in 8 years after the ban on
ICBMs, intercontinental ballistic missiles, exactly what they have built. They have built ICBMs while they're enriching their uranium and getting ready to be able to launch those missiles, nuclear tipped, at Israel, at the United States, at NATO allies. You understand this? Chuck Schumer 10 years ago, 11 years ago, was sounding the alarm on all of these things. Now the time has passed and they're closer to it. And he and they are saying, President Trump, reckless warmonger, war of choice. President Trump is literally standing up and delivering the defense against all of the things that you said would be threatening us. And you were right about. And now you're lambasting him. And because there is just no reasoning with people with Trump derangement syndrome. If Joe Biden was still the president right now, or if, God forbid, Cackler was president right now, and they were taking these steps. Now, they wouldn't. But if they were taking these steps, what would Chuck Schumer and the rest of the Democrats be saying right now? They'd be saying this is good, responsible use of the American military. We need to find a way to stop them from, getting to the point of that uranium being enriched to weapons grade. All of those missiles that they have as their kind of defense force to stop anybody from coming in. We are in trouble. We are going to have to go full scale war on Iran. They would be all for it because of everything that we're talking about. But because it's Trump, it's just like ICE. Barack Obama and Bill Clinton used ICE. Clinton's was called INS, the Immigration and Naturalization Services, but ICE, which is the same organization under a different name, was used to collect and round up and deport, millions of illegal aliens. And the left never protested once. Not one ridiculous mom parking her SUV in the middle of an ICE operation and dancing to her music there in her chair or in her seat. And then when they come to open the door to arrest her, speeds away and tries to run down a freaking ICE agent. None of that happened then. Everybody said, it's the president letting the immigration services officers do their job and enforce American law, federal law. Nobody got in the way. Trump says, yeah, I agree. Let's get these agents out there, our INS agents. Oh, I'm sorry, we're calling them ICE agents now. The name matters, by the way. Shouldn't, same group, same mission. INS and ICE, same mission. But Trump says, yeah, let's use those same officers, the ones that Barack used, and we're going to go out there and round up and collect these people and get them out of here. And, oh my God, you racist, bigoted son of a, And Alex Preddy's kicking out the taillights of ICE vehicles and taking guns into trying to obstruct the arrest and the detention of an illegal alien, and then getting into that physical brawl that ended up with him getting shot. I mean, none of that happened then. Just like it's because the Orange Man is doing it. Same things that the previous presidents did, but Orange Man does it. Nope, can't do it. Previous presidents promised to stop Iran. Orange Man does stop Iran. Nope. Well, what are you doing? I'm waiting for Judge Boasberg to order the Iranian regime to be restored. Take them back, except for the dead ones. Put all of the Iranian regime back. It's an order. If you understand the Boasberg story, you understand what I mean by that. All right. What else do I want to do here? I guess that's enough on Iran for now, because like I said, I don't want the whole show to be on Iran the way yesterday was. I do have some other things. But by the way, as far as where the actual ceasefire is today is largely unknown. Eli Lake wrote for the Free Press. I'm going to read just a couple of brief comments from Eli Lake in the summary of this. He's a well-seasoned foreign correspondent. President Trump just saved his war in Iran. America has won twice. First, the Iranians agreed to end their attacks on shipping through the strait if the U.S.-Israeli military campaign stopped, according to a statement from Iran's foreign minister Abbas Araghchi, I guess. That will greatly diminish the prospect of an oil shock and help keep markets calm. Trump's threat might just have worked. His high-stakes brinkmanship and update to Richard Nixon's strategy to persuade the Soviet Union and China that he was a madman forced the Iranians to blink. But it's worse than that for the Islamic Republic. In 5 weeks of war, the regime has lost its navy, most of its missile launchers, and a good chunk of its defense industrial base, along with the top tier of its political and military leadership. Add to this the damage already done to the nuclear program in last June's 12-day war. There are more than 900 pounds of uranium buried under the rubble. This is a key, by the way, to all of this. Of what used to be underground enrichment facilities. A year ago, Iran was on the brink of obtaining a nuclear weapon and the ballistic missiles to deliver it as far as Europe. Today, the regime's military has been reduced to a shell of itself. All of this leaves Iran's battered regime in a difficult position. It has survived for now, but it's never been poorer, weaker, or more isolated. Trump's domestic critics may crow that he has once again chickened out, but that barb doesn't sting, considering the alternatives. Taco Tuesday has never been sweeter. That was a piece, or part of a piece, from Eli Lake at the Free Press. And I agree with a lot of that. There's another piece that I could share from General Kane, Dan Kane, yesterday at the press conference with Pete Hegseth, but I want to say something first, and then I'm going to move on to Florida. I did a video on this yesterday when I was in the truck on the way home. If you're not following my social medias, please do so, and make sure you do. Same thing there. Make sure you get some responses and reactions. Give some likes and some comments and so forth. But I did a short video on this yesterday morning. And Wednesday or Tuesday, the Democrats were screaming about Donald Trump, threatening genocide and threatening to wipe out the entire existence of a people, never to be heard from again. Okay. And of course, this was the language that the president used. And I told you I didn't like it. To take out an entire, nation and culture of people and so forth, because the innocent people there who are not part of the regime don't deserve that. But like I also said, chances are very likely he did not mean it. He's trying to get them to the table, which is what Eli Lake just said. But they screamed that he was a war criminal, and he was going to be a war criminal. Then Tuesday night, when things played out the way they did, it turns out there would be no bombings of power plants and wiping out entire civilizations of people, as the president said. So they said Trump chickened out. And they're trying to use taco, which is their ridiculous, the left just cannot meme. They're trying to use taco. Trump always chickens out, TACO. I mean, it's like the no kings thing. It's like, wait, what? What is wrong with you lunatics? I mean, in all seriousness, what has Trump ever done that is unlike any previous president that makes him, quote unquote, king-like? The whole title of that, or the language, or whatever you want to call it, of no kings, is just so stupid. Just carry signs that say we hate him. We hate Trump. We hate Trump. The king thing is just so stupid. Just like taco is stupid. They're trying to goad Trump into, I'll show them I'm no chicken, fire, and to launch, this massive civilization destroying weaponry. Because the left thinks like children. They do. They think like children. They meme like children. And they think they can just goad him into something that is going to obviously, be a war crime and be destructive and lead to impeachment and lead to, trial at The Hague for war crimes in the International Court. And so it just kind of came to me, and this is why I did the video. In the morning, they're yelling, Trump's a war criminal. By evening, they're yelling, Tuesday morning to Tuesday evening, he chickened out. He chickened out. Ha ha, Trump's a chicken. It's all over social media. It was all over the mainstream media too. Trump chickened out. Jimmy Kimmel, all of the the talking heads on CNN and MSNBC and so forth, they're all Trump's. Do you remember what I'm talking about? Do you remember being a kid in fifth grade on the playground and somebody taunting you and trying to provoke you into a fight, and you just walk away? And what do they do to get you back? What do they do? Everybody in the chat knows this, right? How many times have you either heard or said when you're a kid, bark, 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 trying to goad somebody, calling them a chicken? Chicken doesn't want to fight. Look at the chicken, little coward walking away. Chicken. That's what you do on the freaking elementary school playground. And that's what the Democrats are doing right now to Trump. They think they can block him into launching something bigger and worse, knowing it would kill people. Which means, and my video that I did was 90 seconds long. I'm embellishing here, but what I said in the video is just very simple. The Democrats would rather kill people or have people killed by Trump in these orders than have peace in the Middle East. If Trump is successful in this military campaign, and the result of it is a weakened, kneecapped Iranian regime that can no longer sponsor terror around the world, and that can no longer threaten Israel or the United States with nuclear annihilation because their program has been completely dismantled. If we made that happen, we have a much more peaceful Middle East, and thus a much safer America. The Democrats don't want shit to do with that. Sorry. They don't want to be peaceful. They don't want President Trump to make Iran submit and to make them weaker, to kneecap them. They would rather have Donald Trump commit these war crimes they cried about just hours earlier, so that they can say, look at what that orange son of a bee did. They would rather have people die and have there be more blood spilled. It's just like again, going back to the ICE thing. And I said this in Minneapolis and in Los Angeles, all the other places this was happening, where the protests of ICE activity were growing out of control. They wanted ICE or CBP to flip out. They wanted ICE in the face of nonstop whistles in their faces and obstruction of their lawful duties, obstruction of their intent to enforce federal law by arresting people and deporting people. They were hoping it would lead to violence. They were hoping it would lead to physical conflict that led to them defending themselves, which is exactly what they did in Minneapolis. They would rather see the blood of their protesters, many of which they pay to be out there, spilled if it hurts and makes ICE look bad, because then that makes Tom Homan, Kristi Noem, Donald Trump all look bad, all look guilty. They would rather spill the blood of innocent people than actually have peace break out. That's just a fact. And they've proven it to us time and time again. All right. I do want to shift gears. Like I said, it's really, really important that we talk about some of these other things, but it's also important that I remind you about our foundational sponsors here on Strictly Speaking Unfiltered, including my man, Mark King. Keeping Medicare simple, my friends. If you are a Medicare recipient, you know about the enrollment periods, and you know that when you turn 65, you can, of course, for the first time, enroll in a Medicare program, and you probably don't know squat about it. Medicare is a little bit different than traditional health insurance. Medicare is complex. It's difficult to understand your choices. Part A and Part B, and they're different from Part D, and prescription coverage is different from, all of the other different types of services you may be eligible for too. And guess what? It's different in every region of the country. Well, in the Northeast Ohio region, nobody knows it better than Mark King. Mark King has been doing this for nearly 40 years. He's been helping seniors with Medicare since he was far from a senior. Now he's approaching that age himself. And so it's, affecting him. But I've been sending people to Mark for over 5 years since I first met him. And I have had so many people tell me, thank you. I now not only understand Medicare, I'm in a much better plan than I was going to be in before, because they were being bought or being sold, I guess would be the best way to say it. They were being sold on the plan by a single insurance company. Mark is an independent agent. He represents multiple companies, so he can give you plenty of options to help you pick out the one that is right for you. All right, for your budget and for your needs. That's what Keeping Medicare Simple is all about. Go to that website, keepingmedicaresimple.com, keepingmedicaresimple.com. And when you're ready to meet with Mark, he's ready for you. Call 440-832-8936. Questions about Medicare? 440-832-8936. And thank you to Mark King for being a foundational sponsor of Strictly Speaking Unfiltered. All right. Let me pop into the chat super quick and see what folks are talking about before I get into the Florida stories, of which there are 2 or 3, and I think you're going to be interested in them. So just kind of going random back up into the chat a little bit here. Trump came down the golden escalator 11 years ago. That's right. It was in 2015. That's when he first launched and changed the face of American politics, likely forever, and literally changed the psychological makeup of Democrats. That launched TDS right then and there. He came down the escalator and said, I'm going to build a giant wall. It's going to have a little door in it for legal people to come through, but the wall is going to stop everybody else from coming in. Guess what? That wall never got built. That wall never got built to the level that it was supposed to have. And that's because they stole 2020. And all of those, beams and girders and everything else that were laying in the desert ready to be erected and, constructed ended up going to waste because Biden stole the election. But turns out we don't need the wall to have what we have now, which is a complete and totally sealed border. 10 consecutive months of zero illegal aliens being released into this country. It's extraordinary. All it took, as he said, was a new president, a different president. So we didn't get the wall, but you remember in 2015, back to the point, he promised the big, beautiful wall, and the left freaked out about that. And oh my gosh, he's a racist, this, and he's trying to keep black and brown people out of the country and all the whole 9 yards. It was the beginning of TDS when he came down that escalator. You're exactly right. Let's see, and this shows how captured the Dems are. Not sure exactly which one we're referring to there again, because I jumped into the middle of these chats. I'm glad Trump showed everyone that America needs saved. It's in your face, dirty like. It is it really that bad now after Biden? Shadow's third term, that's Obama's. Yup, we now see it eyes wide open. Politically incorrect mechanic, but Joe Biden told them, don't. I have never been, honestly, more embarrassed as an American citizen about my leadership than I was when Joe Biden was asked a complex question about the Iranians by multiple reporters, and his only answer was when they said, what is your message to the Iranians about all of these threats? Don't. All right. Thank you, sir. What? Give us some freaking information. And the reason he just stuck with don't is because in his feeble, grinding to a halt, Skeletor-looking crypt keeper mind, that's all he could come up with. The only other thing he could have said that would have been worse would have been true to pleasure, which he also said. I mean, I'm not kidding about that part. I think he said don't because it was way too complex for him to think about. We all know about his cognitive decline. We all know how he could not think sharply and clearly when it came to this matter or any others. So all he could come up with is my mission to Iran, don't. And then months later, Kamala Harris takes the mantle from him as the Democrat nominee without earning a single primary vote. The party of democracy and no kings, nominates a queen, by fiat. So she's the nominee. She's asked by somebody in an interview about what to do about Iran and what's your message for Iran. And what does she do? Not because she's old and cognitively declining like Skeletor, but just because she's dumber than a box of dog-ish. What does she come up with? I heard it somewhere before. What's our policy here? Don't. Biden wasn't dumb. Biden was just, completely, for his entire life, his entire career, Joe Biden was basically, misguided, I guess, in his ideology. He was also dumb to the extent that he finished like 79th out of 85 or something like that in his law school class and tried to claim that he graduated top 5% with 3 degrees and all this other crap. So maybe dumb also, but he didn't portray dumb as much in his younger years. He portrayed cognitive, decline in his later years, obviously. But Kamala Harris can't claim the later years. She's just stupid. I mean, honestly, when I said she's dumber than a box of dog crap, that's an insult to dog crap. Seriously. So anyway, that's the point is President Trump comes in with a strategy to deal with Iran that the last 2 Democrats to have a say in this, Biden and Harris, and then going back to Obama too. I mean, they couldn't or wouldn't get anything done. President Trump actually dealing with the threat. All right, let me leave it there for now because I want to get to Florida. I've got a couple of stories here that I want to share, and I got some thoughts. Oh, you know what it was is I was responding to some of the comments in the chat. I lost my place there. So FDR is a war criminal for bombing the Nazi Germans? No. No, obviously he wasn't, Charlie, but they were calling Trump a would-be war criminal because he said he was going to wipe out an entire civilization. And that means not bombing Nazi soldiers, but that would have been saying, I'm going to wipe out the entire German population and civilization. If we had said that, and if we had tried to carry that out, not just targeting the Nazis in a war campaign, but we're just gonna carpet bomb all of Germany and kill everyone, wipe out their civilization, that would have been a war crime. So when Trump, this is the issue with the rage tweeting or rage commenting or provoking or whatever it is that President Trump does sometimes with the language of we're going to wipe out an entire civilization, never to be heard from again. That means all of the Iranian civilians. That's why they're saying it would have been a war crime. But again, trying to goad him with the chicken thing is it's embarrassing. What Big Jake say? Chicken, yes, but one day he planted his foot in the other guy's crotch. Trump is no chicken, and last summer he kicked him in the crotch. That part is true. Mainstream media tried rebranding Kamala by saying she was so brat. Yeah, I remember that very well. Give Mark, thank you, Care Good. Yes, give Mark a call. Absolutely right. Biden was senile. Lois Irene says. Biden was infirm. Politically incorrect mechanic says. Biden is the greatest scam portrayed onto the American people. History will examine the timeline and several discrepancies will be more apparent. Yeah, probably. Well, it depends on who gets to write the history, as you know. The winners get to write history. We'll see. All right, let me go to Florida. Governor Ron DeSantis is just extraordinary. And he's doing things that, again, if he were the leader of this country right now, I would be ecstatic. And that's not a knock on Trump. It just means if it had been DeSantis, I think we would have been in tremendous shape. Just like I think what President Trump did in his first year of number 2, his second term, was extraordinary. The successes we had last year with the One Big Beautiful Bill, and we were poised for a tremendous breakout year here in 2026. But the war intruded. Not a war of choice, but a war of necessity. So President Trump is doing phenomenally well. I think Ron DeSantis is just a flat-out superstar as a governor. And like I said, when we have a DeSantis, Rubio, Vance, triumvirate leading the candidates in 2028 and whatever that looks like, it's an embarrassment of riches for our side. I'll just say it that way. So why don't we pull up the X story on Ron DeSantis, if you would there, Dylan. So Ron DeSantis, the governor of the state of state of Florida, has made a move here that should be common sensible for everyone and to everyone, but for some strange reason, it isn't. The number of CDLs, the number of commercial driver's license holders who are illegal aliens who can't even speak English or read English, the ones who are causing these massive crashes and devastation on the highways, right? Most of them being given CDLs from California companies. Gavin Newsom's California. This is like a tale of two governors on one end of the country all the way to the other end. Gavin Newsom is given CDLs to non-English speaking, non-qualified illegal alien drivers. Governor Ron DeSantis is saying nobody's going to drive anything, not just CDLs, but nobody's going to drive in our state unless you can speak English. That's what this story is. Florida's Department of Highway Safety and Motor Vehicles started requiring driver's license knowledge and skills tests to be taken in English only. This was in February, so it's 2 months ago. Officials say it's essential for safety as drivers need to read English, road signs, and traffic laws, which of course is all very obvious and true. Let's play the clip.
Florida is becoming the first state to only give their driver's license exams in English. It was just announced that starting on Friday in the state of Florida, all DMV tests, including those for 18-wheeler licenses, are going to be administered in English only, and you will not be able to bring a translator. This includes all printed exams in Spanish, Haitian Creole, and other languages will be completely removed. You are only going to be able to read, write, and understand English if you want to get a license in the state of Florida.
Can you dig it?
I can't stop smiling at it. It's just Ron DeSantis saying, F you, English only. English freaking only. That's it. Is it about driver safety and safety on Florida roadways? Yeah, but it's bigger. It is saying, hey, a-holes, assimilate, learn our culture and speak our language, or GTFO. That's what it is. That's what he is literally saying here. Learn the language or you can't live here. Because it's, again, not just about the 18-wheelers and the CDLs, the commercial driver's licenses, all drivers. And I don't care if it's been printed in Creole or Haitian or French or Spanish or whatever. Not anymore. English only. Learn it, live it, love it, or leave it. That's it. That's what Ron DeSantis is saying here. And I can't freaking believe this isn't the law in every single state. But I love the fact that it is being done down there in Florida. Like I said, he doesn't get, Ron DeSantis has been governing for 2 terms now, like he's completely untouchable. In other words, when somebody's term limited, considered a lame duck, they can do a lot of crazy things because they can't run for re-election anyway. Ron DeSantis has governed like he has no political future to worry about re-elections or otherwise for the entirety of 2 terms. He doesn't care what the critics say. He's doing what's right. And I freaking love every inch of that. And this no translators too. Because what translator do you have with you when you're driving and you're trying to understand what the road sign says or what the interstate electronic bulletin boards say when they've got traffic instructions? It's extraordinarily important, obviously, but it's so much bigger than just driving. It's just basically saying if you don't know English, you don't want to be here. Everybody has to drive, pretty much. And if you don't speak English, you can't drive because you can't pass the test. And if you can't drive and pass the test without learning English, then you're going to have to leave. Simple. GTFO. And what that's going to encourage is, by necessity, it's going to encourage foreign language speakers who are here legally or illegally, but it's going to force them to assimilate to American culture. You're going to learn the language or else you're not going to be able to get around here. That's just huge. So kudos to Ron DeSantis for that. But that's only number 1. Number 2 is going to be a little bit surprising. Go ahead and pop this one up there. Now, this is a Fox News story. So we got to be careful about the pop-up video there. That's how Fox's website is. It's annoying as hell. There's a short story on Ron DeSantis there that we're going to play, but let me just give you the headline there. And this is going to sound a little bit odd, right? DeSantis calls for cousin marriage ban in Florida. Doesn't want them kissing cousins to be able to marry. That's the yokel kind of stereotype, right? People down south, now maybe not Florida, but down south, them Alabamans and them Mississippians and them West Virginians and them, them folks, they like to marry their cousins. It's a big freaking stereotypical, insulting, slurish type of thing. That's not what this is. DeSantis urges Florida lawmakers to ban cousin marriages because of stealth jihad. If you don't get it yet, think of Jihad Omar, Ilhan Jihad Omar, the Somali grifter who managed to get herself elected in a massive group of Somalians who came over and got voting rights in Minnesota and elected her as their congresswoman. That's what they do, obviously. They kind of gather together and they collect in various areas and, in order to gain political power. And she is well known to have married her brother just to get him into the United States legally as a spouse. So the cousin marriage thing is the next step. And again, he's calling it stealth jihad because it's going to be used to bring more Muslims into the country, which, by the way, we're going to address big time on tomorrow's show when I rerun Brigitte Gabriel's interview. I'm going to rerun Brigitte because she has been talking about what's called civilization jihad for some time, but it's very closely tied into this. So Dylan, go ahead and let's hear from Ron DeSantis. We might have an ad in front of that. It just depends. I don't know if we're going to get one or not. It's how the Fox site runs. Give it a shot.
Here's why you should.
Yeah, there's the ad. Mute the ad. Yeah, just mute the ad and let it run while we wait for the DeSantis part to come up, because like I said, this is extremely important. And in fact, while the ad plays out, before we can run it, let me just read you a line or two from the actual story. Ron DeSantis has taken pride in making Florida a leader among red states, but he acknowledged Monday that it was behind in banning cousin marriages, which he is hoping to outlaw in the very near future. Florida doesn't ban cousin marriage. That's a hanging curveball for us to do. We need to do that. He said that at a Tampa signing ceremony on another new law, empowering state officials to designate groups as terrorist organizations and expel students who support them. See, DeSantis is just an ass kicker. He just does it. And he's got the political capital down there to get these things done, which is phenomenal. But anyway, the rest of the quote. Is the cut ready? Is the ad over? Okay, fire it up.
There's some other things that were part of this package that we may need to add in upcoming, because I think there were some things that really need. I mean, for example, Florida doesn't ban cousin marriage, and that's a hanging curveball for us to do. We need to do that. Other states have done it. I don't know why we wouldn't, but obviously that feeds in to some of the stealth jihad that we see, when you're allowing things like that. It's things that are coming in from other cultures that are not consistent with the United States culture and certainly our culture here in Florida. So this is important, but the larger issue is we have got to stop as a country importing people that reject the values of this country.
Boom. Boom. That's what I'm talking about. That it ties into the driver's license one. Stop cousin marriages. Stop letting people take driver's tests in foreign languages and then put them out on English-only road sign highways and surface streets. I mean, it's about the culture. It's bigger than just those individual issues. It's about civilization jihad, which Brigitte told us and warned us about, and Ron DeSantis is talking about here. I'm going to hit the chat real quick because it looks like it's active in this. This is how it should be everywhere in the U.S. Thank you, Florida, says Patriot Mom. Totally agree. Bobby, DeSantis for president. And again, I would absolutely be thrilled with Ron DeSantis in 2028. Although, like I've said over and over again, I am a massive fan of Marco Rubio. And I would love that. And of course, our own Ohio's own Vice President J.D. Vance is, theoretically next in line. And he's running the National Fraud Task Force to try to claw back the trillions of dollars in fraud that left-wing organizations are behind through USAID and so many other welfare grifts and graft as well. And he's also, of course, about to negotiate with the Iranians in Islamabad. So he's going to be ready by the time 2028. He's going to be ready too. We have such a wealth of talent. But I get it. Fred Frog says, yes, that's great news. The Mechanic says, I love how we have a Republican supermajority in our legislature, and Florida gets 90% more conservative legislation through than Ohio does. That's because Ohio's rhino Republican legislature is a barrel of ass. And I'm sorry, that isn't everybody in it. I have a lot of legislators for whom I have great respect, and I usually bring them onto this podcast, and I've brought them onto the radio through the years. But as a group, and sadly, in too much of its leadership, Ohio's Republican Party and Republican quote unquote supermajority is pink, not red. It's pink. I mean, seriously, we should have just as much conservative legislation coming out of Ohio as Florida does. The Mechanic is right, and we don't. It's because they're Republicans in name only, and we need the Ohio Rhino Hunters group founded by Jonathan Broadbent to get to work and find these people, identify them before they take seats in the Ohio House or the Ohio Senate. Stop them from doing it. Primary, and the ones who are there, primary their asses out. Sally, I think that ballots should also be only in English. 1,000% agree with that too. Not just driver's tests, but ballots. How can a person who can't speak English cast a vote anyway? How are you learning what the candidates actually stand for? Are you having translators say everything to you that you hear in a commercial for a candidate? If there's a debate, if there's news coverage, if there's press gaggles at Air Force One or in the halls of Congress, and candidates are saying things that you need to know to understand their position so that you can make an intelligent decision on or not. Do you have translators there so you can hear all of that in your language? No. So you're casting a vote that is 1,000% uninformed because you don't even know what they say. You're being told what to do by somebody else. Well done, Sally. Leftist judges will block it, but until then, suck on that, anti-assimilators. Amen. Common sense is not very common. GOP should change to the common sense party. It would be very helpful if we had some common sense in our party, yes. The signs are in English. I moved to Florida from Massachusetts in 2022, in part because DeSantis was the governor. Do you know how many people came to Florida when DeSantis took over and started doing all of these conservative things? I mean, California is emptying. You mentioned coming from Massachusetts, from New York. They're coming to primarily 3 states. They're coming to Florida, they're coming to Tennessee, and they're coming to Texas. And the key is going to be those red states staving off the blue people, because even Democrats, it's not just people like you escaping yours to get down there. Even Democrats are trying to escape the high taxes, but they're going down to these states and then voting for blue candidates. They're going to turn the states into the ones they just fled. It's stupid. It's like the illegal aliens. They're leaving Mexico, they're leaving Guatemala, they're leaving El Salvador, Venezuela, Nicaragua, whatever. And that's just the Central and Latin American countries, but they're leaving also, their Islamic regimes in the Middle East. They're leaving Africa, Somalia, right? And they're coming to the United States, waving the flags of the country that they just fled. And then trying to import the culture of the country that just destroyed them and their families, and to import it and bring it with them here so they can destroy it here too. It makes no freaking sense. That's the left when it comes to leaving states. Leaving blue states like California and Massachusetts and New York and Colorado, and coming to red states because the tax bases or the tax rates are better there and opportunities are better there. And then coming down here and voting for Democrats who will raise the taxes just like the states they left. Why don't you come to Texas waving your Colorado flag, morons? Why don't you come to Tennessee waving your Minnesota flags and saying we're going to turn this red state into a blue state? Well, then why don't you stay in the one you're in, you freaking losers? Oh, it's so frustrating. We have laws that restrict the elderly from driving. Why not people who can get a license? It comes down to safety. Yeah, I know exactly what you mean. If you can restrict the elderly, you can restrict non-English speakers. CMG, I would vote for DeSantis. I would too. Mechanic flexing the fact that he was a delegate for him in 2024, and I know that's true. She married her brother, not her cousin. Yeah, I know that, Jimbo, but cousin marriages are much more common. And the cousin marrying the brother is a lot harder to pull off, like Jihad Omar did. Marrying the cousin, though, is a lot easier, and that's what they're trying to ban in Florida and in other states as well, again, to kind of stop this importing of people by marriage. Good point about Jihad. All of my snotty friends from New England thought that it was because of rednecks. Let's see. Cousin ex-cousin equals idiots. Yeah, got you, Big Jake. Would love to see DeSantis as president. If he would govern as a president the way he is as a governor, we'd be in glorious shape. Florida cousin marriage ban failed to pass last month. Well, that's exactly what DeSantis was talking about, Charlie. You're right. And that's what he said. He said, we haven't done that yet, and that's something we have to put the pressure on and bring back up again. We have to do that, for the assimilation purposes. Bob is correct on a Republican stacked deck at the federal level. Ohio needs to step up. I think Vivek will do that and pull the squish along, hopefully. We'll see. English only ballots. How this goes so far gone. Yeah. Good stuff, chatters. Let me move on to the next. Do I have a third Florida story? So we have the driver's licenses, we have the cousin ban, and okay, I think just those two for now. Just those two for now. Let me move on. Dylan, throw up just in. Next story on our list. Throw up just in. This is one that I was talking about as we were talking about civilization jihad. Let's talk about, and that's why I'll tease this, I guess, a little bit. Tomorrow's program, I'm going to rerun the Brigitte Gabriel interview as a part of the show. It's not the only part of the show, but as part of the show, I'm going to run Brigitte Gabriel because she was on with me about a month and a half ago, maybe 2 months. And we were talking about civilization jihad. And again, I'm beating something into the ground here because it needs to be beaten into the ground. I've talked about this for the last few shows. It's in my algorithms. Okay, you know how that works. If you doom scroll on either TikTok or Instagram or Facebook Reels, and now Rumble just started shorts, by the way. They're trying to get into the doom scrolling game. They just started shorts. So I'm uploading it when I can, when I remember. It's a little harder to do on Rumble, but Rumble has a shorts section now, which people can doom scroll. Those are the ones where you just watch 15, 20, 30, 40, 60-second things and move on to the next one, depending on whether it grabs you or not. So I'm uploading my Bob France Road Rants videos to Rumble as well. So try to find those. They should be popping up for you if you're a subscriber. Just hit the bell icon there to get notified. But if you are a doom scroller, you find that certain things that you watch for longer than 5 seconds, for example, will start to show up. More of those things start to show up. That's what the algorithms do. The algorithms kind of figure out what you like more and feed you more of that. So my algorithms have been just besieged lately by the number of Muslims in the country saying we are coming to take over. They're not being stealthy at all. There are imams and elders and politicos talking about how many Muslims are already elected to office in the United States and how many more are coming because of the massive influx of Muslims that were allowed during the 4 years of Biden's red carpet, rolling it out for them. And they're coming here and they're having kids. And then as time goes on, these kids get old enough to vote and they're going to be electing more and more Muslims. In 20 years, we may not even recognize the United States. It is a full-on cultural takeover, okay? Civilization jihad. That's what Brigitte warns about. And because, like I said, I'm seeing this in my algorithms, I want to play that interview again. You're going to see it tomorrow. But this is a part of an example of what I'm talking about. So Dylan, I see is throwing up the one tweet about this. And this is, these are paid protesters. And and Islamists marching in New York City advocating in favor of the Islamic regime. And what Eric Doherty, who does a news service out of Florida, which is a tremendous one, I get a lot of content from him, says is correct. ICE should storm the entire freaking crowd and deport any of them that aren't citizens. They're waving Islamic Republic flags, which means they're supporting terrorism. Let's play the video. Pause it. Pause it and back it up so I can read that one banner there in the front, the big one. Just go back. There it is. Stop the war on Iran. Trump is a war criminal. Answer coalition something, which probably .com. So obviously these are signs that are not made by people in New York City, going to, Drug Mart and buying a big piece of poster board with a Sharpie and making their little, true grassroots protest sign. Look at those and look at all of the ones behind them being carried. Funded, organized, and paid for by revolutionary Red Axis members, meaning Islamist groups and communist groups working hand in hand. Can I say something obvious? If Donald Trump's two biggest enemies in the United States are communists and Islamists, he's doing something freaking right. If the two groups that hate you the most are the Muslim groups and the communists, and that encompasses Marxists and socialists as well, you're over the target, man. And that's what they're out there doing. Iran just killed over 30,000 of its own people in the 2 months leading up to the war. That's his own people. Iran has sponsored terrorist activities that have killed thousands and thousands of people in other Middle Eastern countries, in Israel, in Europe, in the United States. They sponsor terror groups, proxies out there committing these atrocities in Africa, all around the globe. That's what Iran is. Iran, under the Islamic regime that took over in 1979, it wasn't always this way. But what Iran is and what Iran does is it kills. It's a killing machine and it kills. That's what they do. Enemies must die because the world, according to the Islamic regime, must submit to Sharia. Sharia law is all encompassing. And Sharia commands us to either convert or kill all non-Muslims, all infidels. Okay? That's what Iran stands for. And this was in the streets of our largest city yesterday. I wouldn't be surprised if in the middle of that mass of humanity would be the mayor of New York himself, Zoran Mamdani, the Muslim communist. So is it a surprise that Muslim communist groups are being funded and carrying out these massive demonstrations against Donald Trump and in favor of the Islamic regime, which murders thousands all over around the world? Is that any surprise at all? Play it. Pause that just so we know what they're yelling. Hands off Iran now. Hands off Iran now. Back that up for a second to see if we can recognize what flags those are. There are flags. Those Iranian flags? I saw a few different flags there. And I don't recognize all foreign flags by their color and their design. Some of them, obviously, you can recognize Japan's, you can recognize China's, but maybe not all of these. And I'm just wondering what flags. Anybody in the chat know this? I'm just kind of curious what foreign flags are being flown in this march for Iran and against Trump in New York freaking city. I mean, it's like our largest city has fallen. I know it may sound extreme, but I mean, is there another way to see this? Play it again, Dylan. Let it go. Okay, that's Iran. All right, I don't want to watch all this. Give me a fast forward 15 seconds at a time there and see if there's anything more than these lunatics doing that. Okay, there we go. History has its eyes on you, war criminal. Trump is the war criminal. The Iranian regime that they are chanting, hands off Iran now, killed over 30,000 of their own people in, again, the 2 months leading up to this war. And then 2 days ago, they at gunpoint ordered and marched women and children to stand as a blockade around their power plants because Trump threatened to blow up their power plants. Using women and children as a human shield, or as human shields in war to make them get killed in order to, start a propaganda war that the Israelis and the Americans are murderers and butchers of women and children. Guess what that's called? You know what that's called when you use them as human shields and hide behind them in order to stop an attack? That's called a war crime. So the loons out there calling Trump a war criminal and hands off Iran now, we support Iran, are supporting actual war criminals and calling the man who is trying to stop them, Donald J. Trump, calling him a war criminal. And that, by the way, is only for part of the day, because then for the rest of the day, they say, chicken, bark, 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 bark. You couldn't do it. You didn't do it. You didn't blow up the bridges. You didn't blow up the power plants. Chicken. They're trying to goad him into it. They're marching against war criminals while trying to goad Trump into becoming a war criminal. Have you ever seen the likes? Right? Have you ever seen or heard anything so outrageous? Play a little bit more of that.
Everywhere! From the belly of the beast. Of the Middle East.
Skip ahead a little bit there, Dylan, see if there's anything else of note that we might want to point out here. It's more of the science. $200 billion for healthcare, not for war, on Iran. Again, for healthcare. Who do you think they want to give $200 billion to? You think they care about Americans' healthcare? That's for illegal alien healthcare. That's what they march for. That's what they stand for. You can keep on going there. Yeah, that's a good pace to speed through that a little bit. Roll kind of on a fast forward type thing. Anything else jumps out? I saw a sign in Arabic there. That's probably the one being carried by Zoltar Mamdani. No new U.S. war in the Middle East. End all U.S. aid to Israel. Yeah, it's Israel's fault. End aid to Israel. Give U.S. aid to foreign countries that promote communism, that promote Islamism. Yeah, let's send the money there. A little bit more. Go ahead and fast forward that up a little bit more. Just kind of keep scrolling a little bit. No war in Iran, more Arabic signs. Oh, there's Mamdani in the middle. I see him. You see him? Yeah, keep going. All right, that's good. Oh, that's another great one too. I just saw it. Stop bombing Lebanon now. Stop bombing Lebanon. Israel is firing rockets into Lebanon, and they're targeting, obviously, Lebanese civilians, right? Oh, wait a minute. Because they're being bombed by Hezbollah. Hezbollah is to the north in Lebanon, to the north of Israel. They are routinely launching bombs and rockets and missiles into Israel. Guess who Hezbollah is sponsored by? Iran. The Iranians fund Hezbollah in Lebanon to attack Israel for them. That's one of their largest proxies, along with Hamas in Gaza. Hands off Lebanon now? Why? Lebanon is allowing Hamas or Hezbollah to operate literally in their country and attacking and trying to destroy Israel. And what are these? Anti-American, anti-Israeli, leftists chanting in New York City, most of them paid. Again, those are not, handmade signs. Those are provided by the activist organizations. Hands off Lebanon, hands off Iran. Trump's a war criminal. All right, let's move on. Actually, hold on a second. I told you I wanted to bebop in and out with the chatters and see what they say about each of these as we go. I'm glad, going back to the DeSantis thing, I was glad DeSantis dropped out of 2024. We still needed him in Florida. He didn't drop out because he needed to rescue Florida further. He dropped out because President Trump was not to be denied. He was going to be the nominee, and obviously everybody else figured that out in short order. But yeah, I'm glad he went back as governor of Florida as well, no question. Hold on a second. Let me scroll back up. It's well known that inbreeding with a close relative fosters mental issues. Just look at the Somalis in Minnesota. I'm gonna withhold comment from that. I think it's self-explanatory. Well said. Now it makes perfect sense why cousin marriage bill failed, because Democrats support terrorists. Very, very accurate. I saw this Rumble short. The only thing we have that others don't is rednecks. They have been armed up since 1775. Invade the South and you lose. Let's see what else. Get them out of our country. Bye, Felicia. Don't let the door hit you on the way out, Sarah says. When the blind sheikh was talking like this in New York City 20 years ago, I thought, oh boy, this will eventually get violent. You think they will leave peacefully? They played our kindness for weakness. Spot on. Looks like assimilation to me there in New York City. Palestinian, thank you, CMG. Palestinian flag, Iranian flag, KC John confirms. Let's send them to Iran. Yeah, let's send all of those people protesting and marching in that parade to Iran, including Zoltar. Palestinian flag is black, orange, white, and green. I wouldn't have recognized it. Liberal New Yorkers are too weak, first of all, then stupid acceptance shows more weakness. Masks and burqas on. Arrest all who have a mask on. They're hiding from ICE. Yeah, it's funny how these same people complain that ICE hides their faces for good reasons, for safe reasons, and these idiots hide theirs so they can get away with crimes. All right, let me hit one more on here, but not until I remind you of another foundational sponsor of Strictly Speaking Unfiltered, and those are our good friends at AFP, Americans for Prosperity. The Buckeye Blueprint is the way forward. The Buckeye Blueprint. Oh, I got to get that off the screen, don't I? There we go. The Buckeye Blueprint is the way forward. If you have been following what we've been talking about for the last couple of months since we've started working with AFP, Americans for Prosperity, Ohio, you know about their goal. Their goal is not political. It is just about success for the people of the state of Ohio. It's about policies. They endorse policies, not politicians. And when the politicians get in office, that's who they work with and work on to try to pass meaningful legislation that will help Ohio. And there are three large goals. All right, the three E's: energy, education, and economic. The goal is economic freedom, more of our own money kept in our own pockets. And that means eliminating Ohio's income tax. That means possibly eliminating Ohio's property tax, or at the bare minimum, reducing it drastically and dramatically to the point where no senior will ever lose their home. So more money in our own pockets. Education, less of the indoctrination pushed forward by the left-wing teachers unions, and more parental control. That's what education, and by the way, not just control of what happens in their public schools, parental control in getting their kids the hell out of some of the public schools, and to give them true school choice, to get them into places like the Northeast Ohio Classical Academy, or to get them into parochial schools, hopefully the ones that are not woke, charter schools that can actually do some good, or to provide homeschooling opportunities. And then energy abundance. We have enough resources in this state to provide reliable, affordable power to the rest of the country. We should be among the nation's leaders, not in the middle of the pack. That's what the goal is of the Buckeye Blueprint. That's what the goal of AFP Ohio is. I cannot recommend it strongly enough. Please go to BuckeyeBlueprint.com, BuckeyeBlueprint.com. What's going on in Ohio is not going on anywhere else in the country, quite frankly. We have the resources and the means to make Ohio tremendous again. I'm just trying to kind of get away from the MAGA thing, because that would have been MOGO, but to make Ohio tremendous, make Ohio what Ohio can be. All right. Please support BuckeyeBlueprint.com and support Americans for Prosperity Ohio. All right. So I've got one more story here that I want to get to. And then we'll dive back into the comments again. And this one is tied to the last one, and it's about illegal immigration, or to a couple of them, including the stealth jihad. If you didn't see this story, and Dylan, I'm looking at the next story down. Holy crap. It literally says holy crap. This one, it contains a video that thankfully it is black boxed out when it gets to the most graphic part, because it's going to make you sick to your stomach, even with the black box covering it for the sake of discretion. I'm sorry, I'm just trying to pull it up on my side. Dylan's going to load it up on your side so that you can see it. But even with the black box covering the actual crime here, it's still horrific, because you know what happened. And I'm going to read to you what happened. The man who brutally murdered an innocent gas station clerk in Fort Myers, Florida. And this is why I think Ron DeSantis is so, adamant about keep getting these people the hell out of his state. The man who murdered an innocent gas station clerk in Fort Myers, Florida, is a Haitian illegal alien caught and released by Joe Biden in 2022. The story feels like just rinse and repeat. It's one after the other after the other. Illegal aliens who come into the country during Joe Biden are released into the country, paroled into it, if you will, given, protected status by Joe Biden. These people come in here completely unvetted, and then they begin to kill people and do other horrific things to people. Does it mean only them? No. Does it mean all of them? No. Does it mean enough of them that we need to stop this insanity yesterday? You're damn right it does. It's why Donald Trump ran in 2024 and what he ran on and why he won. Because we have to keep people like this out of the country. Because when they come into the country, it's too late. Even with ICE working overtime with 10,000 new members to go out and find these people and deport them, it's oftentimes too late, like it was for this innocent victim. He had temporary protected status. And Eric writes, this is why they all must go back before they commit violent crimes, not after. Surveillance footage shows the vicious migrant beating her to death with a hammer after beating up a car. She lost her life moments after walking out of the store. The story goes, and the footage, like I said, is redacted. It's covered up with black boxes so you can't see the graphic crime. Not that you would want to. I'm so glad they did cover it up, because I can't stand the sight of these kinds of things. But this Haitian migrant was out in the gas station parking lot or gas station area there, beating a car with a hammer. And one report is that it was the clerk's hammer, or clerk's car, beg your pardon. Others have said that he was attacking another car, just of a customer. But the clerk came outside to address it, apparently, to either stop it or say what's going on, or to get a look at the person, to call the police or whatever. The clerk responded by going outside. And she was met with, well, what we just described. And now you can watch it. Again, be forewarned, or be alerted to the fact that you won't see it. So don't hide your eyes, because it is covered by a black square box that is going to cover the actual attack. But we want you to see how vicious and how subhuman the attack really was. Go ahead, Dylan.
If you need a steel garage in Montana, Florida, you can deal locally with Everstate Building. Our South Florida offices are based in Palm Beach County. All our crews are Florida-based, insured, and licensed with the state. Hear what our local Waxahachie customers have to say about their experience with Everstate.
I purchased my buildings and Everstate buildings back in 2018 to run a wood shop out of my home.
I let that roll to the end just because we are all that black guy at the end. That's all of us. Pause it, Dylan. I don't want to see it again. Just that's fine. Right there is fine. Thank you. We're all him. The guy who rolled up there on a bike looked over and just said, damn, like what just happened here? What? Allow me to answer that. Democrats happened here. Okay? Democrats happened. That illegal alien Haitian who was given protected status by Joe Biden committed that hammer murder on behalf of Democrats. If you can find a better way to say that, I'm all ears. Democrats rolled 12 to 20 million people into this country and had no intention of vetting them. What is their past? What is their propensity to violence? What is the likelihood they're going to come here and harm other people? That's why we have visa programs. That's why we have student visas and work visas. We have a legal immigration for either temporary status or people who are trying to become American citizens. We have a legal process to go through. And that legal process involves the American State Department vetting people before they come to the United States, because we would never allow somebody like that into this country if we actually controlled our borders and made sure everybody went through the legal process. When you allow unchecked, rampant illegal immigration for 4 consecutive years, how many of those does it take to be among 12, say, let's just say, let's go to the low end and say 12 million illegals came in during Biden? How many of those out of 12 million people do you think there are? If it's 1%, what's that number? That's what? That's I literally don't know. Is that 120,000? If there's 12 million, 10% would be 1.2 million. So 1% I think would be 120,000, right? If 1% of them are violent, animalistic thugs like that, or the one that just killed Sheridan Gorman in Chicago, or the one that raped and killed, Jocelyn Nungare and Rachel Morin. We sit here in Lake and Riley, we remember some of these names because they've been covered by the press. How many of them have not been caught? How many of them have not been discovered? How many victims are not being killed but are being assaulted and brutalized or trafficked, and we don't know about it yet, by people like that? That's why Donald Trump ran and won on the immigration issue, because animals like that cannot be allowed to be here. When we did the ICE appreciation party back on March 5th, it's hard to believe it's been over a month now. When we did the ICE appreciation party, we hung up on the walls mugshots of some of the people that ICE was trying to chase down and get out of this country before they did shit like that. All right? Those are the people, and this is what I want people to understand. This is one of the reasons we did the ICE appreciation party, the Frontline Freedom Festival. The left wants you to view the protests as being against ICE. But the reality is that the protests are in defense of hammer murders. You understand that? Because one cannot happen without the other. You cannot be protesting against ICE and trying to obstruct and stop ICE without being, by default, in favor of and in support of the people on those pictures on the walls. Without being in support of the people who come into this country and rape and kill and torture and murder like that one we just saw. When you stop ICE from doing its job, you stop them from finding that guy before he did that. When you oppose ICE, you try to stop ICE from finding, what was his name? Medina. Was it Jesus or something, or whatever his first name was? I guess it doesn't matter. But Jose Medina in Chicago, who was allowed into this country by Biden, started committing crimes almost immediately, was well known to police because he was arrested multiple times, all of which are deportable. But because of sanctuary city policies, Chicago would not report him to ICE to get him out. Until what? Till he shoots an 18-year-old freshman at Loyola University of Chicago in the head. When these people oppose ICE, they are not opposing ICE, they are supporting criminals, violent, dangerous criminals, so that they can do things like kill that girl, rape that girl, beat this woman to death with a hammer. That's what the message has to be. There's a site, and Dylan, I don't know if I can bring this up on my own or not. There is a site that DHS or the White House has up. And you know what? It was on a recent edition or issue of Strictly Speaking This Week, the newsletter. And I think it might have been 3 weeks ago. Maybe it was 2 weeks ago. I'm going to go back here and try to find the newsletter real quick because I want to pull the site up. But I covered this as one of the 5 things to do. Do me a favor, Dylan. Turn off your share function so that I can share this, because I'm going to have to find this on my own. And that's what I'm working on here. So this is this is a newsletter from 3 weeks. For those who don't subscribe to the newsletter yet, you really need to do it. Seriously. And for those who are getting the newsletter already, forward it to people on your list and tell them, see the red bar? Is everybody seeing that? Yeah, it looks like everybody can see that. Okay, that's good. But the red bar there at the top of the newsletter is where they can subscribe as well. We put that on there so that people who already get it can send that to other people and tell them to subscribe. And the reason why, and I'm sorry, I'm trying to scan my way through this thing here. 5 things to know each week, 5 things to know this week. Then we have the video highlight of the week right here. And then we have 5 things to do this week. And among the 5 things to do, I think 2 weeks ago, I'm going to have to view this as a web page because I ran out of space there. I apologize for this. This is just off the cuff because I want you to know that this killer who just beat the woman to death with a hammer in Florida. This is it. I did guess on the right one. So this was issue number, this was volume 2, issue 13. So it was from March 29th. So it was 2 weeks ago. Okay. So one of the 5 things to do that week that I put up there was make them infamous. Every last one of them. The left screams about ICE like it's some kind of rogue agency terrorizing innocent people. Fine. This is what I was just commenting on, so I'm sorry for the repetition. Let's show America exactly who ICE is removing from our communities. Every time a violent or dangerous illegal alien is arrested, post it, share it, name them, and make them infamous. People need to see the reality. These are not harmless neighbors. These are individuals with criminal records, violent charges, and in some cases, blood already on their hands, like Jose Medina. There you go, accused of murdering 18. I knew it was in my head for a reason. Of murdering 18-year-old Sheridan Gorman last week. Without ICE, these individuals would still be walking free in American communities. There are government databases and public reports that track these arrests. Use them, shine a light on every single case. If the media won't tell the truth about who's being deported, then we will. This is how we get back to supporting ICE, by showing the people that the left is supporting by obstructing ICE. So this is the database I was going for here. Take note of this. It's under, let's see, let me share this screen now. There it is. Everybody seeing that? Put that, yeah, thank you, Dylan. This is actually a DHS website. It's dhs.gov/news, and you can kind of follow it from there, or just search for it. DHS unveils new searchable website, lets you find criminal illegal aliens removed from your community. Why do we have ICE? Because these people are living in our communities. These are examples. Hey, or whatever, Badaway, 41-year-old criminal illegal alien from Egypt with an extensive rap sheet, robbery, aggravated assault, multiple violent felonies. Who does he have to beat with a hammer before he's taken seriously as a threat? Nicole Alexandra Contreras Suarez, transgender criminal illegal from Colombia, charged with rape of a minor and stalking in New York. I'm not going to read all of these to you, but I'm going to do a scroll here so you can see what I'm talking about. Okay, they're posting these on a regular basis, and I'm trying to find, worst of the worst. There it is. Okay, it makes it even easier. DHS.gov/wow, which is worst of the worst. These are some of the people that have been taken off of the streets. There's their mugshots. There's their crimes by ICE. Okay, so look at this one here that my cursor is on. Random. Ogden, Utah. Jonathan Japhet Lopez Coronel. Sexual abuse of a child and enticing a minor. That's in somebody's community. Some child was abused in Ogden, Utah by this guy because Biden let this guy into the country. And because Democrats obstruct ICE from getting rid of this guy, a child got raped. You understand that? This is my point. We have to stop talking about this like it's, ICE supporters versus ICE opponents. ICE opponents are not ICE opponents. ICE opponents are criminal supporters. Supporters of child rape, supporters of, what's the guy next to him here from Honduras? Molestation of a minor, drug trafficking, sexual assault. This one's from Poland. See, look at that. How about that? A white guy, a white European. This is not about the color or the ethnicity of the Hispanics that are on this list. Doesn't matter where they come from. If they're here illegally and they shouldn't be and they're committing violent crimes, then it is the responsibility of those who allow them to stay here, including those who pick up a sign and protest against ICE. So in Bellefonte, Pennsylvania, Darius Blazek, exploitation of a minor, cruelty toward child, sex offense against child, fondling, sex assault, enticement of a minor for indecent purposes. These people are here, and Democrats want them to stay. Now, that might not be explicitly stated by the Democrats, but when the Democrats say ICE out now, they are saying Exploitation of minor, a child guy, stay. Child rapist, stay. Hammer murderer, stay. All of these things. Do you understand the point here? Look how many pages there are of these. I'll skip ahead to page 2,750. And here we go. Vietnam. Receiving stolen property, aggravated assault, gun burglary, and drug possession. I mean, we can just roll through all of these violent criminals. And they're available at the DHS website. You can I'll take it off now, Dylan. Or I guess you did. Okay. You do understand the point, right? When you are saying ICE out now, you are saying that violent guy in, because ICE gets them and removes them. These people that want to abolish ICE, make them take off their masks, make them get judicial warrants to go arrest people like this, they're literally doing the work of the criminal gangs that send these people over. Sorry. They're doing the work of the drug cartels. They're doing the work of the terrorist organizations for them. So understand that part. That hammer video is one of the most grotesque things I've ever seen, and I didn't even see it. The black box covered it up. I didn't want to see it. Who could want to see that? But watching, how many times did he rain that hammer down on that victim? 6, 7, 8 blows. You can only imagine. You can only pray literally by the grace of God that the first one knocked her unconscious and she didn't feel the pain and the blows that followed. Pray that that was the case for that poor woman. But after you're done praying, get pissed off enough to know that that person came in under Biden in 2022, and that person would not have and should not have been here, and his victim would be alive right now if it weren't for that. Understand that. It's a great website, proof that the bad guys are in your community. Show this to the screaming Karens. Amen. Beautiful time to be alive. Yeah, until you're not. Until you're not. I would guess many of those bad acts are demonic inspired. Haiti is a demon worshiping country. All right. That's it. That's all the time that I've got for today. It's 2 minutes after. Let's go ahead and sound the vibe. And we'll call it a day. Tomorrow is going to be a really important day too, on the same issue of illegal immigration and civilization jihad is going to be a big part of the show tomorrow, because we're going to hear from Brigitte Gabriel. It's not a new interview with Brigitte, although I do need to call her back. I need to reach out again and get her back on again, especially in light of all of these new revelations. But civilization jihad and the number of Muslims coming to this country to completely dismantle Western civilization, to dismantle, capitalism, Christianity, all things upon which this republic was founded. It's happening. So that's going to be a part of the show tomorrow. We're also going to hear from Ed Monk tomorrow. Ed Monk is an expert. He's a retired colonel, lieutenant colonel in the Army, and he's an expert on active shooter preparedness training. And sadly, that's a thing. Sadly, that's something that is needed. Just like when you used to be in school and you would have to go through tornado drills and fire drills, there's active shooter drills. And the ones that are being used in our schools and in businesses and places like that now, churches, are terrible because they treat it just like it's a tornado. Go hide under the desk and wait to be shot. Ed Monk is, no, we're doing it differently. You're going to hear that interview tomorrow. You're also going to hear from an outrageous story in Boise, Idaho. The pride flag thing is still an issue. Even though we are now in a different place and a different time than the Biden years, there are still blue cities that are clinging to all things LGBTQ and even on public grounds. There's a story there. We're going to talk to an old friend of mine who does radio in Boise, Idaho, who's going to tell us that story. You're going to want to be a part of that one too. So really good interview scheduled for tomorrow in addition to Brigitte. So make sure you join us then. Don't forget, hit the like button before you leave the room. Hit the bell notification button so that you are subscribed and you know when we have new content dropping. And just as, if not most importantly, hit the join button. That makes you a member of the locals community. Go in there and join us. And if you become a paid supporter and Unfiltered Insider, I will see you next week because we have a plan for Unfiltered Insiders only. Date, location, and time have been picked for a social event. We'll all get together And I look forward to talking more with you about what things you want to see coming up, and also just having a good time with some just great community and conversation with one another. So if you want to be one of the insiders, we'll talk about what you can do there. Just get in and click join and become a paid supporter of Strictly Speaking Unfiltered. All right, everybody, thank you for your attention. Great work in the chat today. You guys brought an awful lot to the conversation, and I really appreciate that. We're going to call it a day. Be well, be safe, and stay free. We'll see you tomorrow morning. Bye, everybody.